everyone, welcome to my channel Stitch Meditations. I'm Shruti, and on this channel you're going to learn the basics of stitch meditation and how can you make it a part of your everyday routine. So today we are going to discuss the different material that we can use in our stitch meditations so that it becomes a more fun and a more interesting part of our life. Let's get started. There are many different materials that you are going to need when you are doing your stitch meditation practice. The first will be fabric. I would recommend choosing a fabric that is very sturdy and it can handle repeated stitching. You're going to keep it away for a while, bring it back. Going to do a lot of stitching on it, maybe even embellishment. So it should be able to bear all of that. I'll go into the details of the fabrics as we go into that section. The second thing that you're going to need is thread, or you can even use yarn for that matter. Here you're again going to look for something that is durable, that will endure repeated stitching, because there will be a lot of stitching done. So if you choose a very rough textured thread or yarn, it will be very difficult for you to do that. So choose one based on your comfort level. We will come to that also later in the video. The third important thing that you're going to use is needles. There are a variety of needles that are available, and the basic difference is between the length of the needle, the point, and the eye of the needle. So we will go into those details also. Apart from that, you can work with any pattern or a design that you have in mind, or you can just choose to go all organic wherever it is leading you. These will be the basic materials that you will need. But apart from this also, there will be a lot of other materials that we can explore. And we are going to explore all that in this video today. So let's get started with the first set of materials that we need, which is fabric. You can opt for when you're creating your stitch meditation pieces. Cotton is a very popular choice because it is durable, it is breathable, and it is very comfortable to be manipulated and used in different situations and different ways in which you can do stitch meditation. It is also available in different thicknesses. So the weave is thicker in some cotton, it is looser in some cotton. So you have a lot of choice when it comes to fabric. You can even in the colors and the prints. Cotton, I believe, is the most versatile fabric that is available out there, and it is my most favorite choice, my go-to fabric for stitch meditation. I prefer using quilting grade cotton because I'm most comfortable with those fabrics. I've been using them for over 10 years now, and that is why I am drawn more towards the quilting cottons. But it's up to you whether you go for quilting cottons, you go for any other kind of cotton, it's totally up to you. A second choice would be linen. Linen has a loose weave, but it is strong and durable. So that is also good when you want a very crisp texture and a very natural look. Linen fabric could work wonders for you. The third option would be using canvas. Now canvas is more heavy duty, and it is usually used for painting and other forms. It is good for stitch meditation because it can handle a lot of repeated stitching, and it is also available in a variety of weights. So you could buy one that is of a lower weight which will help you stitch, and it will stay durable during your stitching. Another option that you have is wool. Wool is such a warm and cozy fabric, and it can be used beautifully for stitch meditation. Just imagine sitting under a rug right now. It's like so cold, and you can just take a rug and you can actually do your meditation on that. A woolen shawl, a woolen scarf, or whatever you want. Then silk is another fabric. It's like a luxurious fabric. I just love the shine and the sheen and the fall of the fabric, and it is one of the most elegant fabrics. Especially in India, you'll have a lot of silk, blouse pieces and the leftover fabrics after you've stitched your blouses of your saris. So I love that it frays very well. So I like using silk not as my base fabric because it's not as durable as cotton, but I love to use it as my embellishing fabric because it has that sheen and it also frays really well. The next fabric that I'm going to talk about is denim. Denim is like very strong and durable, but it is also a little bit difficult to work with. I actually one of the first projects that I worked on in my stitch meditation sessions was a denim jacket. I started it with a denim jacket, and it was quite difficult to work with denim. I had sore fingers for quite a while during that time. But if you want to create something that is casual but sturdy, you can start off with denim. It's a very good starting place for you. So these are some of the fabrics. You can even use something like a muslin or any other fabric, voile, muslin, which are like thinner fabric. I don't normally encourage people to use synthetic fabrics like nylon or something because I personally don't prefer using them. Even satin I don't like using because it kind of like shows a um, threads get pulled all the while when you're working with satin if you're not very particular about it, and I don't really enjoy working with these synthetic fabrics. But if you feel comfortable using them, go ahead and use it. There is nothing stopping you. You can even use some like very weird fabrics, those which like there are those fabrics that shine when you click a photograph with a flash, so you could use that. Or you could use those neon fabrics that construction workers use, the bright yellow and the bright orange ones. So whatever fabric you use, it is totally up to you. You can select the fabric that you can use. I believe that the right selection of the fabric is very important to a stitch meditation because a lot of your comfort depends on the fabric. Also, I don't want you to get distracted when you are actually working on your pieces, because sometimes when the fabric is like too wild or too bright, it's very difficult to focus on the stitching, and you will get more engrossed in what you're creating rather than how you're creating, which doesn't solve the purpose of stitch meditations. So start with basic fabrics. I would recommend starting with solid or near solid fabrics. Cottons are good to start. And then gradually, as you do more of these meditations, you will yourself realize what fabric works the best for you and what simply does not work for you. So then you can take a call when it comes to fabric. The next important material that we are going to discuss is thread. When choosing thread, there are a lot of different things that you need to think about. The first thing is, what effect do you want on your stitch meditation piece? Do you want bolder stitching or do you want fine stitching? Do you want it to be textured or what? And at the same time, you will also have to consider what kind of fabric are you using, because if you choose a thicker thread, then the fabric weave has to be a little bit loose to let it pass through the fabric. Otherwise it will be a lot of effort, and sometimes the thread will break, and it will be really difficult for you to pull the thread out of the fabric every single time, and you will have a lot of sore fingers for a very long time. So one of the most popular choices that I prefer for stitch meditation is cotton. Cotton is my go-to fabric, one because it is very soft and easy to work with, as well as it is available in a variety of colors and different weights also. So if you choose a thinner, like weight 80 cotton thread, it will be like this super fine thread that you can use. Whereas if you select something like a 28 weight cotton, it will be much thicker and will add a lot of texture to your project. The second kind of fabric that I like to use is wool. Now, wool can be used in the form of a woolen thread or a woolen yarn. So, if you're using a more loose weave fabric, you can go for a woolen yarn. And if you are using a normal weave fabric like cotton, then using woolen thread would be a better idea. Again, it has that cozy feeling, and it will add a lot of texture to your piece. The third type of thread that I love to use is silk. Silk is, of course, a luxurious thread, and it adds a ton of elegance to your project. And it is also a very delicate thread. You have to be very careful while stitching with it. You cannot cut a long length because it gets tangled up very easily. Also, it doesn't like the threads are, if you are using multiply, so thread, so using like two ply thread, then it becomes very difficult to hold the two threads together. They tend to separate. So that is something that you have to keep in mind when you're using a silk thread. You can use a synthetic thread like a nylon and polyester. It is available the most easily in Indian markets, especially the poly thread that we usually. It is a lot more durable than the regular cotton thread that is available, and it is very sturdy. So if you are working on a piece that is going to be washed many times, or it's going to be like displayed somewhere and it's going to be exposed to the elements, then synthetic thread makes much more sense. The other thread that you can use are those decorative ones. So you can use embroidery floss. That is one that I'm using currently on most of my projects, just because I ordered like a whole bunch of them from my friend Tina at the Square Inch. So the embroidery thread is basically six ply thread, and you can either use all those six threads together, or you can separate them and use them. I like to separate them into two strands of three threads, and I use those for my stitching. Uh, then you can also use those decorative metallic threads that are available, which will add a unique touch to your pieces. So if you want to like add a punch to whatever you are doing, you can go and choose one of those specialty threads, like they are called. So, like I said earlier, the choice of the threads depends on what you want your piece to look like, what fabrics you're using. So, it is totally up to you what you choose. Let's talk about choosing the right needle for your fabric. Um, a lot of times we don't think about what needle we are using, and we just get one of those packs which has like an assortment of needle, and we just start using the one that feels most comfortable to us. I would recommend not doing that, and instead like spending a little time studying needles and understanding what needles can you use for your pieces. So there are different parameters that you need when you are selecting a needle. So one is the size of the needle, which is like the size is a large needle is better for thicker uh, threads like yarn or something, whereas a smaller needle is better for thinner threads or yarns like cotton thread, silk thread. If you're using silk thread, you might use the smallest one. Cotton will have a medium length one, whereas if you're using wool or yarn of any kind, then you'll use a more larger needle. The second thing that you need to think about is the type of the needle that you're using. So there are different types of needles. For example, there is a universal needle, which is a good choice for cotton or linen fabric, and whereas a denim needle is a good choice for denim, canvas, and any other thicker material that you use. Sharps is a category of needles that you can use for silk fabrics and other delicate fabrics. If you're using lace, if you're using, let us say, organza or something, you can always go for a sharp needle. Then the eye size of the needle is another thing that you need to be careful about. The eye size of the needle means the size of the hole that is there in the needle through which you are going to put your fabric. So make sure that the eye size matches the choice of fabric that you have made. Like if you're using wool, then make sure that the eye of the needle is larger, whereas if you're using silk, then you can go for a needle that has a smaller eye size. Then we come to the length of the needle. Uh, so it will also depend on the fabric that you're using. So if you are using a delicate fabric like silk, then you would use a smaller needle, a shorter needle. Whereas if you are using denim or canvas, you will use a longer needle, of course, because it takes an effort to push it through. So for cotton, you can use a medium length needle. And I would not recommend focusing on brands. I would actually suggest going into your local market and talking to the person who sells those needles. Now let us discuss what other material you might need apart from everything else that we discussed right now. So, like I said in the beginning, you could use a pattern or a design that you want to use when you're consciously creating something and you're using that piece to build your focus. At that time, it is wonderful to use a pre existing pattern or a design as a guide for yourself. If you're a beginner, it is ideal for you guys. So, you could use a cross stitch set, for example, or a long stitch set that is available, and you can use any of that as your first piece if you are very new to this. The second thing that some people choose to use is a hoop, an embroidery hoop or a frame, where the fabric is stretched taut while you work on it. I myself am not comfortable using it, and that is why I don't use it. I've tried using it, but I'm not very comfortable. So that is especially helpful when you're working on very intricate designs, which I don't normally work on in my stitch meditations. I like to keep it super simple. So it depends on what you want to do. You can use a hoop or a frame. Also, you should have a good pair of scissors with you. They need to be sharp. It depends. Like, I like to fray the fabric, so I don't bother using a larger needle, a larger scissors. But I normally I just snip my fabric and I tear it. So for me, having a small scissor works perfectly. I actually have a box in which I keep all my supplies so that I'm ready to go at any time that I want. You can also use a thimble, especially if you have very sensitive skins on the skin on the tip of your fingers. So you can go for a thimble, so it will protect your skin, your finger, when you're pushing the needle through the fabric. This is especially true when you're working on a thicker fabric, like, and a thick thread like denim canvas. Then it's especially essential that you use a thimble. Apart from all of this, you can also use embellishment like beads, sequins, buttons, or any other lace even to your pieces, and it will add a lot of creativity, personality to it, and it will help you make that piece your own, and it can reflect your personality a lot. I also recommend using a light nearby. So make sure that if you do not have like a good lighted place to sit, then get a table lamp that will light up your working space so that you can work more easily. Um, Apart from that, you can use an erasable fabric pen. I like to use the friction pens. So you can draw whatever stitches whatever design you want to stitch, and then later on just use heat to get rid of the design. So use any kind of fabric marking system that you use. It could be chalk, it could be pen, whatever you want. So ultimately, what material you choose depends a lot on your purpose and your desired outcome. So if you want to just let yourself go and start with basic stitching, then any fabric, any thread, and any needle will be suitable to you. But if you want, if you start with a purpose of creating these pieces and using them somewhere, like currently I'm working on pieces that I plan on mounting on wooden frames and creating a series out of it. So if you have something like that in your mind, then it makes much more sense to plan what material you are going to use. But whatever you use, I would not recommend spending more than 5 to 10 minutes on selecting the material that you're using and on deciding the design that you're going to attempt. Because otherwise, if you spend a lot more time on creating it, it becomes a project and not a piece, and you will get more caught up on the end product rather than losing yourself and focusing in the process itself. So choose your material wisely and let's get stitching.